Lakers fans, you can feel in the air. Every game, every possession, every rotation feels like a small snapshot of what this team might become as the season unfolds. The conversation around Los Angeles right now is different from past years. It is not just about surviving stretches or finding ways to patch things together until everyone gets healthy. It is about understanding what this roster truly is, what it can be, and what still needs to happen if this group wants to reach the absolute highest level. Before the season even tipped off, the message coming from the front office was simple. Give this group around 20 to 25 games before making any major evaluations. It sounded reasonable at the time. But the funny thing is that as soon as the ball went up, the answers many fans expected to wait for already felt obvious. Some needs did not magically disappear with the start of the regular season, and some questions kept showing up loudly, even while the team kept stacking wins. The record sits strong, the rhythm looks sharp, and Los Angeles has already proven it can battle through adversity. Injuries have hit almost everyone at some point, and despite that, the Lakers have stayed steady in standings. They went through the first 15 games with just one night of having the full roster available, which makes their consistency even more impressive. You look at stretches where key players sat out, times when the bench had more G League reinforcements than expected, and moments where lineups had to be created on the fly with almost no practice time. Even through all that, this team has shown resilience, identity, and structure. Add to that the fact that they open the year with one of the toughest schedules in the league, and suddenly the early success becomes a real statement of potential rather than just a hot streak. Still, potential is one thing, and championship reliability is another. The path through the regular season exposes strengths, but also highlights weaknesses that never fully go away until someone steps in and addresses them. That is where Los Angeles finds itself. They are winning. They are competing at a high level, but some gaps remain just as visible today as they were months ago. The perimeter still needs a boost of length, athleticism, and true two-way presence. A player who can switch assignments, slide with dynamic scorers, chase shooters around screens, and still punish defenses by knocking down open looks or attacking closeouts. This has been clear since the offseason. It showed up in preseason, and it continues to show up even in the middle of victories. Every team in the league knows how valuable that type of wing is, and that is exactly the type of piece Los Angeles keeps coming back to as it studies the landscape. All of that becomes more complicated when you consider how the roster has been forced to operate without everyone available. The front office wanted 20 to 25 games to evaluate, but can you truly evaluate when your rotation players are taking turns missing time? When you have days where half the bench is unavailable? When stars have to take on an even bigger load because continuity has not been possible yet? Those questions matter because they affect how the decision-makers judge this team. If the group has only been fully intact for 1 out of 15 games, how do you draw the line between what is a real flaw and what is simply the result of not having your full arsenal? The challenge is finding the balance between patience and precision. Patience has paid off for Los Angeles in recent years. They have avoided panic trades, waited for market prices to drop, and made smart decisions rather than emotional ones. That approach reshaped the roster and turned it into a legitimate contender again. But patience also has a downside when a team is this close to breaking into a new tier. The Lakers are good. They might even be very good. But to be among the 2 or 3 strongest teams in the entire league, the margin for error shrinks fast. Once the season shifts into games against elite opponents, the flaws that do not matter against average teams start to glare brighter. The goal is not to simply be competitive. The goal is to make sure this roster can stand toe-to-toe with the absolute best without needing everything to break perfectly. That is where the next stretch of games becomes so important. The schedule eases up compared to the early grind, and if Los Angeles goes on a big run, there is a real chance the record will look dominant. That is great on the surface, but it also carries a risk. When a team is rolling, there is always a temptation to say there is no need to make moves. Winning can hide flaws, even when those flaws will matter in April and May. The hope is that the front office reads the situation with clarity rather than comfort. The team might be thriving now, but adding the right piece could be the difference between being a strong playoff team and being the overwhelming favorite. As the group continues to get healthier, the picture becomes clearer. Rotations stabilize, chemistry builds, and strengths and weaknesses reveal themselves without the noise of missing players. When the front office looks at this roster, the goal is to see not just what it is today, but what it can be at its peak. Depth can be rearranged, salaries can be combined, and there is flexibility to make upgrades if necessary. But timing, patience, and strategy will define how this next phase of the season unfolds, especially when the trade window fully opens and rival teams start making their intentions obvious. Lakers fans, when you look at how this season has unfolded so far, it becomes clear that every decision from this point forward could shape not only the rest of this year, but the trajectory of the franchise for seasons to come. The first 15 games already told a story filled with injuries, adjustments, resilience, and flashes of high-level basketball that hinted at what this roster might become once the pieces finally settle into place. But the deeper the season goes, the more the focus shifts toward what this team still lacks and how the front office plans to approach those gaps. There is no question that the group has talent, experience, and chemistry building in the right direction. Yet there are moments throughout games where you can almost feel the need for an athletic presence on the wing, someone who can lighten the defensive load on the stars and bring consistent energy in transition, off-ball actions, and tough matchups. The idea of giving this roster 20 to 25 games made complete sense during the offseason. It created a timeline, a structure for evaluation, and a clear plan to observe strengths and weaknesses with enough sample size to act responsibly. But that plan becomes complicated when only one of those 15 early games featured the entire roster available. When the front office looks at the film, part of the challenge becomes figuring out how much of the inconsistency in certain areas comes from roster construction and how much comes from simple unavailability. In some games, the Lakers were missing their top player. In others, they were missing perimeter creators, defensive role players, or front-court depth pieces. And in multiple stretches, they were relying heavily on players who were not expected to carry that level of responsibility this early. It is impressive that this team has managed to stay competitive through all of that, but the resilience should not overshadow the reality that deeper issues still exist. When facing opponents with explosive perimeter scorers or heavy wing depth, Los Angeles has shown signs of strain. Rotations get stretched, stars take on more defensive assignments than they should, and the margin for error becomes slimmer. It becomes clear that one more reliable two-way presence could tilt matchups, ease pressure, and stabilize the game flow at critical moments. The challenge, of course, is finding that piece at the right price without disrupting what is already working. This is where the next phase of the season could define the mindset of the front office. If the Lakers string together a dominant run and climb even higher in the standings, it could create a dangerous kind of comfort. Winning makes everything feel smoother, and when the record looks impressive, it becomes easy to talk yourself into believing the roster is complete. That is where the organization must stay sharp. Even when the wins stack up, the tape still shows the missing element. The ability to defend elite wings, the explosiveness to keep up with the most athletic opponents, and the versatility to counter different lineups become crucial once the schedule shifts toward tougher matchups. The reality is that the best teams in the league thrive on versatility. They can match small ball units, they can go big, they can switch, they can trap, and they can survive in fast-paced games without losing identity. Los Angeles has shown moments of that, but not consistently enough to say the roster is built for every challenge. The front office knows this, the coaching staff knows this, and the players themselves probably feel it in the way certain games unfold. It is not a matter of panic, but a matter of sharpening the edges of an already strong team. Trade conversations will inevitably become louder as the calendar moves forward. Salaries can be combined, contracts can be moved, and the front office has pieces that other teams would be willing to take on depending on their own situations. The question is not just what the Lakers can get, but what they are willing to give up. Some players on the roster bring clear value today, but might be necessary to move in order to land a long-term solution. Others have shown flashes, but not enough to guarantee a future role. The front office must evaluate not only who can help now, but who fits into the long-term picture once the stars eventually hand the torch to the next generation. The timing of any move is also critical. Making a deal too early risks overpaying when the market is unstable. Waiting too long risks missing opportunities while other teams around the league get more aggressive. The sweet spot usually arrives when teams begin to accept their identity for the season, either competing for the top or preparing to rebuild. That is when prices come down, and that is when flexibility becomes a weapon. Los Angeles has an advantage here. They do not need a desperate move. They do not need to chase anything dramatically. They simply need the right addition at the right moment, someone who elevates their strengths without disrupting the chemistry that has already formed. The hope is that the front office uses the strong record as leverage instead of justification to stand still. A team playing well has bargaining power. A team that is not desperate can negotiate from a position of strength. If Los Angeles continues winning, it should not lead to complacency. It should lead to strategy. The message should be clear to the rest of the league. The Lakers want an upgrade, but they do not need one to survive. That stance creates pressure on sellers while ensuring that any deal made benefits Los Angeles rather than simply filling an immediate gap. As the roster gets healthier and the rotations become more consistent, the evaluation becomes more accurate. The next 10 to 15 games may show a clearer version of this team than anything we have seen so far. The stars will settle into rhythm. The bench will establish defined roles, and the coaching staff will begin shaping the version of the team that they expect to take into the postseason. Once that happens, the blueprint becomes easier to follow. The holes become unmistakable, the strengths become more polished, and the path toward building a championship-level roster becomes more direct. And all of this becomes even more interesting now that the Lakers finally have a fully healthy roster. For the first time all season, there's a chance to see what the true identity of this team looks like. The rotations can stabilize. The roles can become clearer. The rhythm can start to form. And with each game, the front office will have a better understanding of what they actually have in their hands. The truth is simple. The Lakers have put themselves in a fantastic position. They are winning through adversity, showing resilience, and proving that their stars can lead them through almost any challenge. But the great teams are the ones who refine themselves even when they are already successful. They sharpen their strengths. They reinforce their weaknesses. They position themselves to withstand the pressure that only the postseason brings. And that is exactly the crossroads this team now finds itself standing on as the season continues to unfold. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on. Whispers are swirling around the NBA universe as the Los Angeles Lakers seem to be stirring the pot once again. Sources close to the team hint at a shakeup that could reshape the Western Conference landscape, and it's not just talk about the roster. There's a buzz about momentum, confidence, and a renewed hunger to dominate. The Lakers, already a squad with championship aspirations, appear to have reclaimed a certain swagger after a controversial twist that some insiders are calling a moral victory returned. While no official statements have been made, the locker room vibe is reportedly electric, with players feeding off a sense of vindication that's hard to ignore. Analysts are quietly speculating that this unexpected turn of events might embolden the Lakers in ways that statistics alone can't capture. There's chatter that veteran leadership, coupled with the team's offensive firepower, could make them a nightmare for the top contenders in the West. Rumors suggest that chemistry is improving on the fly, and young stars are stepping up with an intensity rarely seen outside of playoff settings. Sources claim that the energy in practice sessions has shifted. Longer drills, sharper focus, and a collective mindset that feels more like a team on a mission than ever before. Off the court, the story is no less tantalizing. Hints of strategic tweaks from the coaching staff have leaked, fueling speculation that the Lakers may be quietly preparing to exploit weaknesses in rivals who have previously dominated the standings. There's talk in insider circles that the front office is monitoring the trade market with renewed urgency, searching for the kind of piece that could tip the scales in their favor without disrupting the current harmony. Fans are, naturally, buzzing. Social media is alight with debates, predictions, and hopeful conjectures about whether this reinvigorated Lakers squad can sustain its momentum. Even beyond the numbers and the matchups, the narrative is compelling. A team with history, pride, and a fan base accustomed to expectations is reportedly turning a controversial moment into fuel for a run that could shake up the Western Conference hierarchy. The rumor mill hints that if the Lakers keep this energy, the rest of the league may need to brace for a Los Angeles squad that's not just fighting for wins, but for respect, dominance, and the unspoken thrill of vindication. Stay informed exclusively about Los Angeles Lakers news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep receiving daily updates. Also, share your opinion on the news in the comments, as your contribution is crucial for the Lakers. Stay tuned for the next video.